pressure is basically the story of I have to perform well, or I like have a lot to lose, and
Oh, so well put. Pressure is when we feel there's a lot of a line, we're going to lose it. And that
exactly.
puts fear. As soon as you say it, it's like, oh, that would put fear and worry. And now we're not focusing on being our best by being present.
Totally, and it's a
Yeah.
story of high stakes, right? It's a story of high stakes and, like, I have to, and it's often a story we create in our own
Mm.
mind about what's true about us and what's true about our lives, and so many athletes, period, opt for that story, because I think there's a bit of a misconception in our culture that for whatever reason, like I have to will like drive a person to be their best.
Mm.
But so this athlete absolutely bought into that for a long time. And but he would just find that when he felt this pressure, he'd be anxious inside of his races, he would be indecisive, he would get stressed, he would be intimidated by other athletes, he would overthink his decision making. And then what would happen is he'd have an average race or a poor race. Usually it was like
Mm.
average or poor. And then he'd finish the race and he would like beat himself up severely for having had an average or
Mm.
poor race, like ridicule himself and you're this and you're that and you're never. And like just
Very critical.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
would end up in a scary place mental health wise. It was
Mm.
he really could get dark. And just over time and through a lot of conversations and a couple of other methods, he eventually reached a point where one day he walked into my office and he says he goes, I was thinking, he's like, I am living my dream. Why can't I just be grateful and proud of myself? And he got to the end of his own rope, and was just fed up with the
Mm.
perspective that he had. And he was actually the athlete that prompted me to focus even more on relationship with the race. So we just, instead of worrying
Mm.
about, yeah, how he was going to perform in any one race, we just clarified that his goal for the way he was going to relate to his races was to be grateful and proud of himself. And we talked about that more than anything else. And we worked on methods to try to help him just view the whole thing with gratitude and pride for his own
Mm.
efforts. And he found that he was able the results started to come, I think, as a
Ah,
byproduct of that. And now, yeah, like now he goes into races way with a much, much, much lighter heart. Um and he's performing just fine. Everyone always wants to be performing better, but
better, of course.
yeah, but he's performing, he's prone to, but I think but then he'll finish a average race and he can objectively explore the strengths and the weaknesses of the race and take it and move on to the next one. He no longer goes into a scary place
Yeah.
mentally, like mental
Or
health wise.
spiraling, yes, exactly, because
No.
it can trigger depression, more anxiety, like
Yeah.
withdrawings, like a lot of self-blame,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
it can really spiral. And
Yep, and that's been one of the most dramatic changes I've
mm.
seen that I feel very inspired to think of him because it sometimes people are so stuck in whatever, this from your work, but so stuck
Mm.
in the lens that they see their life in the world, they feel like it's not gonna be possible for them to see differently, and
Yeah.
that was one of the most profound changes I've seen. Like, this person truly relates to his sport differently and his life, therefore
Mm.
his life differently. He sees it differently. So his whole experience is different, and his performance, I'd say, is better as well, like
Mm.
come along as well. Yeah. So that's one.
This is so beautiful what you're sharing, because that aspect of relating is what is the relationship we have to something, whether it's
Yeah.
sports performance, whether to our work, whether to some stressor we have, how we relate to it, how are we looking at it, how are we working with it. Such an important component, because
Yeah.
that's something we can influence, is our relationship to something. We may not be able to change the something,
Yeah.
like you said, there's conditions in the race, or there's challenging coworkers we have or whatever it might be, the external, but we
Yeah.
can control how we view it, how we relate to it, and that's a
Yep.
really important aspect. Hello there, and thank you so much for stopping by this channel. I hope you find this content useful, and if you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It will really help me to reach to more people and keep this content going. Here we are journeying together, and let's see where this takes us.